Hello and welcome to another episode of Let the Bible Speak. We thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your schedule to consider the things of God and to pay attention to just what His Word has to offer us because it gives us an insight on who He is, what He wants from us, and how we are supposed to live in this thing called life. We're all challenged by so many different things in so many different ways, and we have to go to God's Word for the answers, for the guidance. We have to commit ourselves to knowing His Word more and more and more and more each day and growing closer to Him day by day so that as time goes on, our relationship with Him can just get stronger and stronger and stronger. So we here, Let the Bible Speak. That's what we are trying to do. That's our message. That's our goal. And that's what we want to help you do in your life. So before we get into today's message, I do want to just make mention of the ways you can get in contact with us. Our phone number 843-553-5157. That's a dial a Bible study number where you can call that number every day. The messages change daily, and you can hear a quick about a minute and a half or 2 minute or so message, scripturally based and just to help you be spiritually minded throughout your day. So please, we encourage you to call that number every day and get that encouragement. And at the end of that message, you can leave a voicemail and you have some options. You can let us know if you would like to get the Bible correspondence course through the mail, and we offer that to you free of charge, so we can have that sent out to you. We also can let us know if you are interested in having a personal Bible study. You can leave that on a voicemail. Just leave your information and we'll reach out to you. Let us know if you want to set up a Bible study and we'll make those arrangements. We also would like you to let us know if you have a specific question or subject matter that you want us to cover on future episodes. Please let us know that as well. Again, you can do all that with our number 843-553-5157. Leave a voicemail after the message plays. That number is also a number you can text in any kind of questions. You can text in your Bible questions and we'll get back to you as soon as possible on that line. We also have an email address, let the Bible speak 843 at gmail.com. Let the Bible speak 843 at gmail.com. That is our email address, and you can do the Bible correspondence course through the email if you would like. Just email us and let us know you want to do the correspondence course virtually and not do it through the mail, and we'll send it out to you. Again, you can also let us know if you want to have a personal Bible study or if there's subject matter or question that you want us to deal with on future broadcasts. You can do that at the email as well. Let the Bible speak 843 at gmail.com. So today's subject matter I want to get into is Matthew chapter 8 and chapter 9. It's a really good look at Jesus healing people's lives. And we have to be able to be encouraged by that and know that Jesus is the only one that can heal people's lives. So, what does that mean? What does that look like? I want to look at a couple of passages here and we can be encouraged by what this has to show us. So, what we're going to do is just again go through Matthew chapter 8 and chapter 9, and hopefully we'll be encouraged by this. So, the way it's set up, it is three sections of healing, three healings per section. So you have a healing, you have three healings grouped together, and then you have Jesus exhorting people to follow him. Then you have another set of three healings, and then another followed by another exhortation of Jesus trying to get people to follow him. And then you have a third set of three healings where Jesus heals people, and then after that, there's a call to action, similar to exhortation to follow me, but just more of a specific call to action. And so you see, there's actually a literary design for the way this is organized in these two chapters. So what you have there in verses 2 through 4, Jesus heals the leper there in Matthew chapter 8, verses 2 through 4. And so the leper, it mentions that Jesus touched him to heal him. Now, lepers wouldn't have been touched. Lepers would have been ridiculed. They would have been seen as outcasts of society. They would have been restricted to the general population, separated. Not a good not we think of set apart in the Bible. That's usually a good thing. No, lepers would have been set apart, not for a good thing. I mean, it really is for the safety of other people, so they wouldn't be contagious. But again, being in the type of situation that this leper was, imagine yourself. And as we go through these passages and look at these people, I'm going to constantly encourage you to imagine yourself as the people in this passage. So connect with being a leper at that time, being a outcast of society, being ridiculed and being restricted, and people really not having anything to do with you. That's what a leper would have faced. And no one would have been touching him. And so Jesus made a very loud statement by touching the leper to heal him. So imagine just the thankfulness and the gratitude and appreciation that this leper would have had after that. And so the next passage, we look at the centurion servant. There's a lot to consider here with the centurion servant in chapter 8, verses 5 through 13, where the servant comes to him and asks Jesus to heal his servant. And Jesus says, "Okay, I'll come and heal him." And the gentleman, the centurion, stops him and says, "Lord, well, in verse 8, he said, the centurion said, Lord, I am not worthy you should come under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to those who followed, "Assuredly, I say to you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel." Now, that would have been a huge attention getter and really a slap in the face, really, to those Jewish followers of Christ. Because this centurion, he was a non-Jew. And Jews, they already look down at Gentiles, non-Jews. They already look down at them as being godless and evil people. So that's how the centurion would have been looked at, and not would have been interacted with. And then furthermore, the centurion, he was a authority figure. He would have been seen as as an oppressor. He was a symbolism of military and government control that the Empire of Rome had over the Jews at that time. So he not only was a non-Jew looked at, poorly by the Jews, but again, even furthermore, he was seen as an oppressor. He was seen as someone who represented this Roman authority. And again, those would not have been a great background for someone to have. And for Jesus to compliment that man, that compliment and saying not only just complimenting this man, but again, chastising Israel, the Jews, the followers of Jesus, chastising them, saying, I have not found such great faith even in Israel. This man showed he understood authority. This man showed that he attributed all power and authority to Jesus. That's faith. Attributing all power and authority to Jesus, that is faith. And this centurion showed that in abundance. And then the next healing in this first section of three of the three sections of healing, we have three sections of three healings. So this third one here in this first section of three is Peter's mother-in-law. And it mentions Jesus goes into the house and sees Peter's mother-in-law with a fever lying there, and he heals her, and she gets up. And so a rather simple healing there for that situation. And so then you have after the three healings, you have a break there and an exhortation to follow Jesus in verses 16 through 22. An exhortation to follow Jesus. So in verse 16 it says, Now when evening had come, they brought to him many who were demon possessed and cast out the spirits with the word and healed all who were sick, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet. He himself took our infirmities and bore our sicknesses. And now when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave the command to depart to the other side. Then a certain teacher came and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Jesus said, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. And another of his disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Follow me in priority. So that verse 22, you can see Jesus not only says to follow me, but to give priority. Because notice how the man said, first, let me go bury my father. So first denotes priority, showing that he was given that priority. Jesus said, no, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. That everything else is not as important as following me. So that's the first section of three healings and then the exhortation to follow Jesus. The exact same thing we see here in the next section. Now, the stormy seas where Jesus is in the boat sleep and the disciples are saying, "Oh Lord, save us, we're perishing." And Jesus gets up and rebukes the wind, and he says, verse 26, "Why are you fearful, O you of little faith?" Now, mind you, now this was after what we just saw, where he praised the centurion's faith. And so here, the disciples who are closest to Jesus, they should be the ones believing him and trusting him the most. But again, recognizing ourselves in this, we can understand we all have the stormy seas of life, the tough times of life where, times are a little bit more difficult than they used to be. We all go through the ups and downs of life, and when we're in those stormy seas, can Jesus praise us for our faith in him, or does he have to say to us what he said to his disciples? Oh, you of little faith. So that's something to consider for us. And so I use this in this context of all these healings that he has done as the looking at him fixing or healing the tough times in life or the sick times in life. And so not just the physically sick times, but again, spiritually weak and spiritually sick times that the cares of this world and the storms and issues of life can affect us in it. So are we sticking close to him in those times? And then this next section is the demon possessed men. You see these demon possessed men here, they are in a really dire straits, really a dire situation. And so there is a connection there to how deep people's lives of sin have them. And oftentimes people don't realize how deep they are in sin, or they do realize how deep they are in sin, and they believe the lie that they're too far gone. As long as there's still air in the lungs, breath in the lungs, as long as the blood's still pumping through your heart and blood still going warm through your veins, you have a chance. No one's too deep in sin, too far gone in sin. That's just not true. And so you look at these again, look at these demon possessed men. Imagine yourself as a demon possessed man. Think about yourself as someone really deep, stuck dead in sin. Ephesians 2 even mentions that. Ephesians 2, the first verse says, "And you who were dead in trespasses and sins, he made alive." You were dead and he made us alive. You look at these demon possessed men and Jesus heals them and the demons flee from them. And then the next section, going into chapter 9, the first 8 verses here, there's a paralyzed man. And the paralyzed man, he's stuck. He can't move. Imagine yourself in life. Sometimes you feel stuck in life. Sometimes you feel like you can't move in life. The progress, the way to get unstuck is only in Christ. It's only through Christ. The more we try to just do things ourselves, to fix the problem ourselves, oftentimes the worse we make it. Or even worse, if we do actually get ourselves out the situation, we might not give God the glory and give God the credit and try to take the glory and credit for our own. And that will put us into a worse situation a lot of times because we have to give God the credit. We have to give God the glory. And so, again, think about being that paralyzed man, can't move, hopeless, but Jesus heals you and gives you strength. And so, after the second grouping of three healings, we see another exhortation to follow Jesus. Here, he calls Matthew at the tax office and tells Matthew to follow him. And so, again, another exhortation to follow Jesus after a group of three healings. And then finally, a third group of three healings. You have in verses 18 through 26, the ruler of the synagogue, Jairus, another one of the other gospel accounts, calls him by name Jairus. And so in verse 18, it mentions his daughter is dying, and he goes to Jesus, and Jesus goes to his house, just like he tried to do with the centurion, right? He tried to go to the house to heal him. The centurion was too humble and said, "No, I'm not even worthy for you to come to my house." But here, the ruler, which again we know his name is Jairus by other passages, he continues on, and while Jesus is on his way, there's a woman with a flow of blood for 12 years. And again, we have other passages in the Gospels that mention she had used up all of her money. She was sick for all these years, went to all kinds of doctors, spent up all her money, and was no better, but rather grew worse. So here you have again, think about the dire straits, the dire situation, the desperation that these people would have been in. I have a young daughter myself, and I just can't imagine feeling helpless of her having a sickness that seems to be unhealable to the point where she's done. I just can't imagine that pain. You think about the bleeding woman, 12 years. You think of dealing with something for 12 years, physically exhausting, emotionally exhausting, financially exhausting. I mean, and she didn't want any attention from Jesus. She didn't want Jesus to make a scene out of her. She just wanted to touch the hem of his garment. And so Jesus then not only healed her, but made sure to know that her faith was to be praised. And he wanted to make that known. And so that's a beautiful blessing for us and an encouragement for us. Then you look at the next section here with the two blind men, verses 27 through 31. I love this passage here, how they go to him, verse 27, excuse me, they cry out to him, saying, Son of David, have mercy on us. And verse 28, and when he had come to the house, the blind men came to him. And Jesus said, Do you believe I'm able to do this? And they said, Yes. And he touched their eyes and said, According to your faith, let it be to you. And their eyes were open. And Jesus sternly warned them, saying, See that no one knows it. You see, I break this down and I make sure we don't miss this. They called out to Jesus, and then they actually went to Jesus. So they did their part. They actually, with effort, they actually went to Jesus after calling out. And then when Jesus questioned them, he questioned their faith. They affirmed their faith. So again, put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in this situation. When you call out to Jesus, do you do your part? Do you make your effort to go to him? And then if your faith is questioned, can you affirm your faith and do you affirm your faith? That's a question that only you can answer for yourself. And so in this passage, it's Jesus who questions their faith. But for us nowadays, in our everyday life, it's not going to be Jesus who questions our faith. It's going to be people that we're around and conversing with and interacting with and people we live with and people we talk to and the influence that we have on others we come in contact with on a consistent basis. They're going to be the ones to question our faith. Can we do like these two blind men and affirm our faith when questioned? And then lastly, the third healing in this third section of the group of three healings, you see the mute man, and Jesus heals a mute man. And again, I challenge you to imagine yourself as this mute man where you can't speak. And again, you feel desperate, like nothing's gonna help you, but you go to Jesus and you trust and believe and you have faith in Jesus healing you, and he does. Imagine just the thankfulness and appreciation and gratitude that you would have. All of these situations are challenging us as followers in Christ today to follow him and trust in him and to show these type of traits in our lives. And then lastly, the like I mentioned, this third section of healing here, as opposed instead of ending with another exhortation to follow him, kind of similar, but then also different enough for me to point it out. There's really this call to action after all these healings. So There you see in verse 35, it says, Jesus went out about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. And he said to them, the harvest is truly plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers in his harvest. So there's a call to action there of the laborers in the field, to be able to go out and preach this gospel message. And that's what we are called to be. That's this call to action. So we connect ourselves with all the people that had these healings, and Jesus healing these broken parts of their lives. We connect ourselves to that. And then as a response to that, there's a call to action for us to then go out and share this good news about Jesus. So let's look at some common traits before we finish out. The common traits of all of these people here, they were not society's best. They were not the rich and the prestigious and the well-to-do. Most likely the centurion was really the only one that would have had any kind of good societal standings. But again, like I mentioned and pointed out, compared to Jews, the Jews didn't see him as any, as anything special. And so, because they considered him to be someone who wasn't following God. So again, you look at all these people, the leper and the blind man, and the woman with the flow of blood, and just like these were not society's best. That they were getting the attention from Jesus, getting the healing and the saving from Jesus. And then you also look at these were desperate situations that people were in. They had nowhere else to go. They had nothing else to trust or believe in. They had to trust in Jesus fully and wholeheartedly. So the challenge for us is to not let Jesus be a backup plan. Let Jesus be the priority. When we are in our desperate situations in life, we should always have Jesus first. And these situations, sadly, well, not sadly, but they can be a reminder for us to put Jesus back first where he belongs, always, whether good times or bad. The next common trait I see is humility. You see that over and over and over again. Again, I pointed out with the centurion who said, I'm not even worthy for you to come to my house. There was humility there. The woman with the flow of blood, she didn't want all the attention on her. She just wanted to be healed. She just entrusted that Jesus could do it. And so she just wanted to touch him. She didn't want any attention. She didn't want people to say, oh, woman, you have such great faith. But Jesus saw fit to let people know that she had that great faith. And so you see the humility of people that had great faith. They trust in Jesus, because we have to follow in that same example. And again, I mentioned this earlier, the complete trust. You just see complete trust. Think of the blind men going to Jesus. Jesus said, do you believe that I'm able to do this? Oh, yes, yes. They were sure about it. And again, the one with the flow of blood, she had nothing but trust in Jesus. Jairus, the ruler, with his daughter. I mean, think about how broken he was with his young daughter dying. And Jesus, you're the only one. I completely trust you being able to heal her. So everyone, all these examples we looked at, just completely trusting Jesus to heal. And then lastly, effort. Imagine that. They gave effort, and we have to give effort to reach Jesus. There's a phrase that I like to say that sometimes rubs people the wrong way, but heaven is the gift that you have to work for. It's a gift you have to work for. Philippians 2:12 says, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." And so when I say work, and when I consider that passage, Philippians 2:12, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, it's not about working to earn, because earning salvation is not possible, because it's only God's grace that gives it. We can't bind God. Our actions can't bind God or force God to do anything. So it's not about working to earn, but it's working to receive. It's you receiving the gift. What work do I have to do to receive the gift. It's not me earning the gift, it's what I need to do to receive the gift. But I have to give effort. You better believe I have to give effort to reach Jesus. And so that's what these people showed us in these examples. That is our lesson for today. I hope it's been an encouragement to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We ask that you would make mention, excuse me, that I need to make mention again of our number 843-553-5157 to call us. Take that Dollar Bible Study message every day. You can text that number if you have any kind of questions, and then I'll let the Bible speak 843 at Gmail to get in touch with us as well. Let us know if you want to have a personal Bible study. Let us know if you want the Bible correspondence course. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, always remember to let the Bible speak.